Welcome everyone to the FNAF tier list based on their game and their AI. Forgot to put that in the title. Anyways, today we're going to be ranking all of these guys from their games and how they really work depending on their AI level in the custom night. And I don't mean ultimate custom night unless it's like, I don't know, DD or something. Or JJ, I'm not actually sure which one that is. So the way that I'm actually going to be doing this, in case you're not getting it, is that I'm going to be looking up how hard is, and then the animatronic, and then in FNAF, and then the game that they're from. Then I'm going to go to the FNAF wiki from Fandom, powered by Wikia. And then by looking at what it says on how they work, I'll be ranking them from D, super easy, C, easy, B, normal, A, hard, or S, super hard. Which pretty much means how hard or easy their AI is, or how easy they are to counter. So first we're going to start with Mangle. How do I put this? Interesting one. Actually, alright, so we're going to do Mangle first, so you're not really going to be able to see it because, you know, I'm going to be the only one that sees it. But I'll read it to you guys. So, you want to go to Appearances. Mangle is a fairly active animatronic as it can leave Pirate's Cove as early as 12 a.m. on night 2 and arrive at the hallway within an hour. Which also reveals that Cawthon doesn't even know what gender that Mangle is, because it says as it can leave Kids Cove, not he or she. But anyways, it is not important to watch it as its as its radio frequency sounds can be heard when it is in the vent. This is not heard in the mobile version, so it's vital to keep an eye on it in the mobile, which is important for that. Once Mangle is spotted in the right air vent blind spot, the player must put on the Freddy Fazbear head to ward it off. If the player brings up the monitor brings it up and then lowers the monitor before putting the head on, Mangle will appear on the ceiling in the Knight's guard office. Unlike other animatronics, Mangle cannot be repelled by the Freddy Fazbear head in this position, no matter how fast the player's reaction time is. At this point, Mangle may randomly attack after the monitor is pulled up and down, where its head swings down from the ceiling and towards the night guard's face, seemingly intending to bite them. It appears that it cannot be made to leave once inside the office, besides waiting until 6 a.m., which makes surviving the night nearly impossible. Bringing up the monitor will trigger Mangle's attack once lowered again, but the player will need to use it to wind the music box, lest the puppet come after them. On early nights, however, Mangle may not attack when the monitor is raised. However, if the player does put the head on when Mangle is in the right air vent, then it will exit the vent and return to the main hall, and its cycle will repeat from there. So, I wouldn't say this would be an easy, I would probably say it would be an A tier. Because, you know, if you don't put it on when they're inside of the blind spot in the right air vent, then it's literally impossible to get them out. So I wouldn't say it's super hard, but I would say it's hard. Alright, next is Balloon Boy. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit weird or if I'm coughing. I did have my early morning pizza rolls, but I didn't really have too much water today, so sorry if I sound a bit weird. So next is Balloon Boy. So this one's also in FNAF 2. So let me go down. Balloon Boy is completely inactive on night 1, as he does not become active until night 2. He starts in the game area and will eventually come to the office via the left air vent. With each of his movements, the player can hear him saying, "Hello? Hi," or simply giggling. Balloon Boy will not show up on any camera except the game area and the left air vent, keeping his path of approach hidden. Balloon Boy, other than some of the Easter eggs like Shadow Freddy, is the only animatronic in the game that will not kill the night guard, but rather he will make an annoyance of himself by disabling the flashlight and the air vent lights, all while a loop sound of him laughing will play until the player is killed or gets to 6 a.m. If this occurs, the player is especially vulnerable to Withered Foxy, which is right here, attacks. If this occurs, the player is especially vulnerable to Withered Foxy's attack, as he can no longer be stunned with the now disabled flashlight. To prevent Balloon Boy from fully entering the office, the player must put on the Freddy Fazbear head on while BB is in the left air vent, and wait for the sound cue that he has exited the vent. However, the player should be advised that the noise heard may be possible be another animatronic entering or exiting the office or vents. Once Balloon Boy has left the vent, he will return to game area and his cycle will repeat. If the player pulls up the monitor while BB is still in the vent, he will enter the office. Balloon Boy will remain in the office for the rest of the night, rendering it nearly impossible to beat unless it's close to 6 a.m. or Foxy's AI set to 0 in the custom night. So he can't really kill you, should I say. So I would actually say he might be easy or super easy, but he's also kind of annoying to deal with, so I'll put him in B tier. Alright, next is DD or JJ. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one that is, but I'll look them both up and see which one is right. So, DD. So, okay, it's the. So this one's actually from. It's still in FNAF 2, but I looked up the wrong one, so it's JJ. Sorry, I don't know my FNAF 2 animatronics, sorry. Alright. So, occasionally the player may encounter JJ hiding under the right side of the desk in the office while directly looking at them. The hallucination does not appear to affect the player, neither attacking or jump scaring them. She seems to seemingly disappear if the player checks the monitor. This hallucination appears in the mobile version of the game as well. So this one doesn't kill you as well. It just does a creepy stare. So I would say it would be D tier. Next is Withered Freddy, I think. Yeah, Withered Freddy from FNAF 2. So from what I remember, this one, as well as all these other Withered ones, appear in the parts and service room, or camera 8 if you want to be more specific. So okay. Wait, it didn't appear? Oh, here we go. It didn't appear at the top for some reason. Alright, well this one isn't the exact same thing, I think. Yeah, it's not the same page of the FNAF wiki. But what it says is Withered Freddy is the second main villain of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The second Freddy Fazbear animatronic made. Withered Freddy starts in parts and service, which I guess. And Withered Freddy can first move when Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica is moved. It's always on the third night that the Withered Freddy starts to move on. It doesn't give out any other information, so I'll just leave it at that. But just because of that, I'm gonna put him in a normal tier, because still he can be annoying to deal with if he's in the office from like 1020 mode or something. But you know, it's the third night that he becomes a pain. Or really, I think the fourth night actually. Well, next is Withered Bonnie. And I hope this one I actually get an answer from the official Wikipedia page. Oh, it gave me the pizzeria simulator. Interesting. Alright. Alright. Oh, it's different. Okay. So, Withered Bonnie, like Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica, will occasionally climb out of an unknown trapdoor to stand in the office. Like in FNAF 2, Withered... Really, it just went by. Whoa! Something just appeared in the background of it. Alright. Well, out of all the Withered... Oh wait, no, not that. Like in FNAF 2, Withered Bonnie will stand right in front of the player, causing lights and audio distortions. I think that's how you say it. To fend him off, the player must quickly put on the Freddy mask swiftly to do so. Otherwise, Withered Bonnie will rip off the mask and attacks the player. Also, this guy is probably the scariest in FNAF 2. Well, besides this one and the nightmare ones and so. Like, I can see people getting nightmares. Even Scott Cawthon did when he made, like, the first game. Which is pretty crazy. So, I think I'm going to put him in hard tier. Because if you don't have the right reaction time to put on the Freddy mask, then you're pretty much dead. But it's not super hard either, because if you have the right reaction time, then he'll not attack you. So hard tier. Next is Withered Chica. The next withered character, which, you know, it didn't give me the same website again. Is this the one? Oh, it is. Okay. So, main appearances. Like Withered Bonnie and Withered Freddy, Withered Chica is an incredibly active animatronic, as she can leave the parts and services room as early as 12 a.m. and sneak into the office around 3 times in an hour. Unlike the first game, Withered Chica follows a set path. She will begin moving from night 3 onward, but can really make an appearance on night 2. Withered Chica starts with the other older animatronics in the parts and service room, moving to party room 4 and then party room 2 to enter the right vent. While in the right air vent, as Withered Bonnie does, she completely bypasses the vent blind spot and may enter the office while the monitor is pulled up. While she is in the office and the player lowers the monitor, or when she forces it down, Withered Chica will stand in front of the desk as the lights constantly flicker before she vanishes. The player must immediately put on the Freddy Fazbear head the moment they see Withered Chica to avoid imminent death. Delaying or neglecting to put the head on will cause the screen to black out as normal, only for it to return and kill the night guard after bringing up and lowering the monitor or taking off the Freddy head. She may also forcibly pull down the monitor or remove the head if left on some time after failing to ward her off. Once the player equips the head and Withered Chica leaves, she returns to party room 4 and recycle repeats. So this one's also kind of normal or easy. But again, if you don't have the right reaction time, then Wither Chica will completely destroy you. So, hard tier again. Now, probably one of the most interesting ones inside of FNAF 2, Withered Foxy. So, let me find it. Wait. Okay. Parts and Service is the only room in which Foxy will appear on camera. If all the animatronics have already left, he can appear standing in the middle of the room. He'll also come back directly when the player manages to repel him. Withered Foxy will then make his way back to the hallway outside the office. Withered Foxy's behavior is quite different when compared to the first game. He starts in the Parts and Service room before making his way to the hallway outside the office and will try to pounce the night guard from there. Withered Foxy, along with the puppet, completely ignores the Freddy Fazbear Head. The only way to prevent Foxy from attacking is to shine the flashlight down the hall at him a couple of times while he is there. After doing so, the player must bring up the monitor and Foxy will be gone. It is possible to get rid of Withered Foxy just by shining the light. However, that will consume more time and power, thus it is not recommendable. According to Phone Guide, this can either cause him to be reset or stunned, and he will eventually return to the Parts and Service room to continue the cycle. If Balloon Boy enters the room, the player's light will be disabled, revoking the ability to counter Foxy. Unless the player is close to 6 a.m., Foxy will most likely cause a game over. So I think that this one would also kind of be in S to B territory. But because of the way that Balloon Boy can really mess up the way to counter it, I'm actually going to put it in S tier, just for the sake of it. Next is Withered Golden Freddy. Now, I don't know too much about this one. Oops. I spelled it wrong, but when it auto-corrected. So, here we go. Alright. Golden Freddy, in his withered form, makes an appearance in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, playing a more active role where he's now one of the characters whose difficulty settings may be altered, which it was impossible in the first game. Unlike the other withered animatronics, he is not replaced with the toy counterpart, though he is in the old Fredbear suit. The only place where Golden Freddy's original form is seen standing in the Night 3 cutscene. His appearance is also seemingly corresponds to the one from the first game, including both his ears and his bow tie. Golden Freddy now takes a form mimicking Withered Freddy's appearance as a unique model of his own. He appears to be in a decrepit state, much like... Oh wait, that's the wrong section, never mind. I don't know why I wasted time there. Alright. Golden Freddy will only become an active character on Night 6 and the custom night if he is enabled. At random, Golden Freddy can instantly appear in the office or the hall just outside, something in a similar position to the one he had in the first game, or simply as a giant ghost head, oddly floating in the distance, respectively. Shortly after, his body will vanish, only for his head to rush at the player and kill them if they do nothing to counter him. Golden Freddy is much more difficult to deal with than in the first game, as raising the monitor will no longer prevent Golden Freddy from killing the night guard unless his giant head is floating in the hallway. To avoid being killed by Golden Freddy, the player must either equip the Freddy Fazbear Head immediately upon spawning him in the office, or turn off the flashlight while he is in the hallway. He can attack the night guard from the hallway, and will do so if the player observes him for too long. If the player is in the monitor for a long period of time, there's a 60% chance that Golden Freddy will appear in the office unless another animatronic is present. So I would also say that this one's in like S to A tier. But I think that because you don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna put him in S tier. Because if there's barely any time to really put on the head for it, you know. So next is the puppet. And this one's another unique character from FNAF 2. Considering that they're inside of a music box that keeps them asleep, I think. And I know that they're also known as the marionette, but what do you know? It's what their official name is called. Hold on, wait. Okay. Phone Guy mentions that the night guard needs to keep the music box wound, as the animatronics have a feature where they attempt to find sources of noise or potential customers. The source in this case is the office. Keeping the music box wound is vital to keep the puppet at bay. If it is left unwound for too long, the puppet will exit the prize corner and will attack the night guard, ignoring the Freddy Fazbear head, like Withered Foxy, resulting in a game over. The music box can be wound remotely going to cam 11. As it unwinds, a warning sign will appear next to cam 11 on the camera map, as well as the bottom right of the screen when not using the monitor. The warning sign starts out orange, signaling that there's only one piece of the counter left before the music nears its end. It then blinks red when the timer is run out, meaning that the music is about to end, and the puppet is seconds away from beginning its attack. Once the red exclamation mark appears, action must be taken immediately, or the player will be completely helpless against the puppet. It was not previously thought that once the timer ran out, there was no way to stop the puppet, but this is not true. Since the puppet will not move when the light is on it, it is possible to hold the light on the puppet and wind the music box, keeping it there as long as the music box is still wound. If the puppet is caught in its first stage of exiting the box, the player still has one last chance to stop the puppet in its tracks and prevent it from reaching the second stage. The player must still treat this as a normal music box rewinding, as the other animatronics can still attack the night guard. Regardless of what happens after it begins to attack, even if the music box is wound after it has left the prize counter, the puppet will still make its way towards the office, attacking it in a manner very similarly to Withered Foxy. There's no way to stop it once it has begun, its approach, and will kill the night guard. Even if they are wearing the Freddy Fazbear head, the only way of surviving at this point is to make it to 6 a.m. The player will know that it left if they hear the tune "Pop Goes the Weasel" begin to play. The player will be unable to find the puppet on any camera once it has left the prize corner to attack, except in rare cases of seeing it in the main hall camera as a hallucination. Depending on the night, it will take anywhere as long as 2 minutes to as little as 6 seconds to reach the office. This is mainly demonstrated by the custom night, where its attack time is based on other animatronic AIs. So this one, again, it's like in this territory, but because of how, I'm thinking to put it into either one of these, but I'm thinking this one more because you don't wind up the music box, you're dead. And you can come out as in 6 seconds to reach the office if you hear "Pop Goes the Weasel." And that's really not good. So, S tier. Alright, next is Springtrap from FNAF 3. And I know this one because this is the only one in that game that can actually kill you in this game. besides all the other jump scares by the other hallucinations of jump scares. So let me see. Springtrap enters every room and vent, and therefore it can be seen in every camera unless he is in the office, the hallway, or outside the office's doorway. He has 2 positions per camera, excluding the vent cams and cam 1. There's no known fixed location where he starts, but he generally begins his path from camera 7, camera 8, or camera 9. Springtrap acts in a very human-like manner, usually going to more secluded areas of a camera's field of view to attempt to hide from the player. However, he will stealth directly into camera 1, camera 9, and camera 13. When around the office, Springtrap will lurk around and even stare at the player through the window. On occasions when he is about to attack, he will peek in from behind the door, simply staring dead at the player. He will also briefly appear from the right, only to slink away from the peripheral vision. As mentioned in the Night 2 phone call, Springtrap is susceptible to audio distractions and will constantly follow the source of the noise the player creates, due to him mistaking the noise for the sound of actual children. He will only follow the sound when it is placed in a location close to where he is. He is also susceptible to the vents being sealed, as he commonly uses them as a means of getting to the player. Springtrap also may be attracted to the sound of the office alarm blaring when the light flashes red in the office, and after the ventilation system is left with errors for too long, in which the player starts hallucinating and sees multiple Springtraps in the cameras, and will soon be jump scared by the actual Springtrap. Unlike the robotic movements of all the previous animatronics, Springtrap moves in a fluid manner, slinking into the office in an almost human-like fashion. So this one's also kind of in the territory. I can see a lot of these in the territory, actually. But considering that there is the audio distractions, I'm actually going to put him in B tier. Because if it's near him, like inside of, if he's like in the vents, like close to you, you can put it like inside one of the arcade rooms, or I think one of them, that has one of the vents. And then you can counter him from there. So I'm putting him in B tier. Next is Freddy Fazbear from FNAF 1. So this one, here we go. Okay. Freddy starts the night on the show stage, along with his bandmates, Bonnie and Chica. Upon activation, he will follow a set path from the show stage to the office. The path goes as follows: show, dining area, restrooms, kitchen, East Hall corner, the office. Unlike the other animatronics, he will remain in dark areas of the room he is occupying, leaving most his eyes and parts of his face visible. This implies that Freddy is avoiding the cameras as much as possible, or as phone guy states, this may be because Freddy is more active in the dark. Freddy will not be visible if another animatronic is in the same room as him. Viewing Freddy on the security cameras will slow him on his path, even if he is not visible in the room due to Bonnie or Chica's presence. Freddy will play his jingle either when he is in the kitchen or when he is not visible in as that room's camera is disabled, or in the office when the power is out and the player has no means of warding him off. For the first 2 nights of the week, Freddy is inactive and stays on the stage, looking at the camera intermittently. During those nights, he only becomes active if the player runs out of power. After the power goes out and the player spends some seconds in the dimly lit office, Freddy's face will light up in the left doorway, illuminated and shimmering, accompanied by his music box jingle, which is the Tornado March. Well, it should be called the Terrifying March, right? After several seconds, the remaining lights of the office and Freddy's face will flicker and turn off, turning the room completely dark. In addition, Freddy's jingle will stop as well. Being initially not visible, yet sometimes audible due to his footsteps, Freddy will approach the guard and attack him, resulting in a game over. Which also happened in all of my attempts to beat the game, which all of them were killed by having the power up. If the player plays dead, EI does not move when he plays his jingle, his attack may be delayed. Typically, doing this may keep Freddy playing his jingle a bit longer, and when the lights go completely out, may delay his attack, giving the player a bit more time to hold out until 6 a.m. From night 3 onward, he usually becomes active when the power is on. Usually when Freddy moves, a deep laugh can be and running footsteps are heard, and the usual walking footsteps the animatronics create when moving. Freddy only moves when the monitor is down or the player is not directly watching him. Freddy can only enter the office through the East Hall, except when the power has been drained, in which he will only enter the office via the West Hall, specifically the left door. As his movements are very fast, he can often appear as though he is capable of teleporting, much like Bonnie. This issue is compounded by the fact that the player cannot always hear him when he moves, as other sounds may prevent the player from hearing him laugh, meaning that the player has to constantly search for him to ensure that he is not right next to the office. The most efficient way to prevent Freddy from sneaking into the office in the cameras is to frequently stall his movements. If Freddy can be seen on cam 4B, which is the East Hall corner, the player should always close the door while looking at the monitor, unless they are viewing said camera, as shown by this video, which you won't be able to see, and I won't click on it. The reason for this being, otherwise, Freddy may move inside the office. Even if the player closes the door, he won't go away. This means the player will have to close the door on the right side each time they put the camera up. Freddy will only move inside the office if the player looks away from cam 4B to another monitor to monitor another camera while he is there. Since Freddy does not appear in the blind spot, his position in the East Hall corner indicates that he is just one step away from entering the office and ending the game. So this one's also in the territory. I can see a lot of these animatronics going in this territory. So while he is really annoying, I'm going to put him in A tier, because when he, if you don't move when the power is out and it's like 5 a.m. during the night, you may actually have a chance to actually get through the night, just like I did in my first part of the Five Nights at Freddy's live streams. So I'm just putting him here just because of that. But because of like the custom night and night 6, he can be a real nuisance, so I'm just going to put him in A tier. But because of that thing with the power out, I give him an exception and put him 1 tier lower. Next is Phantom Freddy. So here we go. Sorry if it takes a bit of time for me to actually get to it. But I just have to get to the area where I can actually tell you guys how the character works, unless you've already played the games. Okay, so in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Phantom Freddy has no movement pattern. However, he can occasionally appear in the hallway, right in front of the player, slowly shuffling to the left, before ducking down, as if hiding. He then appears inside the office, jump scaring the player. which they won't kill because they're a hallucination. Phantom Freddy will randomly appear to walk across the window in front of the player. The player must be viewing either the monitor or the maintenance panel until Phantom Freddy finishes walking across the length of the window to avoid triggering his jump scare. If the player fails to do this while Phantom Freddy is wandering, he will duck down, completely removing himself from the player's sight. He will then jump scare the player a few moments later. A very simple strategy to avoid Phantom Freddy is to simply ignore him. The player is advised not to stray away from the camera's view for too long, as this can trigger his attack. The moment the player exits the camera, Phantom Freddy can attack. If the player stares at Springtrap without pulling the monitor up or maintenance panel while he is in the window or doorway, Phantom Freddy can attack with no warning, disabling the ventilation system. In the mobile version, regarding this, Phantom Freddy can jump scare the player even if they are on the monitor or the maintenance panel. This normally happens if the player keeps watching him and shortly after opens the monitor or maintenance panel. To avoid this, the player must open either the monitor or maintenance panel as soon as possible when he appears. And if the player is using one of these while he's walking and must use the other one, they must immediately move to the other side and use either the monitor or maintenance panel respectively. The ambience cue will also help the player to know if Phantom Freddy is there. Also, if the player is on the monitor or maintenance panel, they can wait until Phantom Freddy finishes walking across the length to the window. This is recommended, as Phantom Freddy will never jump scare the player if this is attempted. Though this can prove to be a little risky, as this involves staying in the monitor or maintenance panel, and he gets to use both to locate Springtrap and reboot the systems respectively. So this one I think I'll put in B tier because although you might want to put him in hard tier or A tier because of the unrecommended thing, but because of how the mobile version works with the ambience cue, I think I can put him into B tier. Next is Nightmare Balloon Boy. And just like the Phantoms, just like Phantom Freddy and all the other Phantoms, this one cannot kill the player besides Springtrap. So, Phantom Balloon Boy is notably more sinister and aggressive than his original counterpart in the second game. Phantom Balloon Boy lacks a movement pattern, but instead randomly blocks the monitor view with his face that lacks eyes, the frequency of which increases as the week progresses. If the player does not change camera views before retracting the monitor, Phantom Balloon Boy will appear in front of the player in the office and proceed to lunge at them with a scream while stretching his lower jaw wide in an unnatural way, disappearing and disabling the ventilation system. The time allotted to change cameras before his jump scare decreases as the week progresses. So this one can also be in normal to easy territory. And because of how the time allotted to change cameras before his jump scare decreases as the week progresses, I think I'll put him in C tier. Next is Phantom Chica. I can actually just look up their names, actually. Alright. Phantom Chica randomly appears in camera 7 in the arcade machine monitor in a brightly colored black and white close-up image similar to Phantom Balloon Boy. After closing the monitor, she will appear in the office to the left of the player, jump scaring them. Phantom Chica lacks a movement pattern, but rather randomly places the arcade arcade machine's monitor at camera 7 with a distorted grunge Victor-styled image of her face. The frequency of this occurring increases as the week progresses. If the player does not change monitor views when this occurs, Phantom Chica will appear on the left side of the office and pretend to jump scare the player if viewed, disappearing and disabling the ventilation system, just like Phantom Balloon Boy. In the mobile version, Phantom Chica will immediately jump scare the player if the player fails to avoid her, as she will forcibly pan the player's view to jump scare her, which is on the left side. And then there's Ultimate Custom Night, which we won't get into. So again, this one can also be in normal to easy territory. And because of the mobile version, I'm putting Phantom Chica into B tier. Next is, I think that's the Phantom Puppet. I'm not sure. What do you know? Alright. Okay, so it is. Okay, so rarely when the player looks at camera 8 and only camera 8, the image of a normal non-burnt puppet in the hallway will show. Once this happens, the monitor will lower almost immediately and close up of this same puppet's face, only burnt in gray black. Will move right to left in the office, its eyes focusing on the player. While this is happening, the player makes the Phantom Puppet will make a weird computer-like noise while blocking the player's view, which I have not played FNAF 3, but I assume it's dial-up. Once in the room, the Phantom Puppet cannot be warded off and must leave on its own, which will take approximately 17 seconds. During this period, it allows time for Springtrap to move closer to the player while also leaving the player vulnerable to the other Phantoms, especially Phantom Freddy and Phantom Foxy, which we'll get to in a sec, who can both attack almost immediately, even while the Phantom Puppet is still in the office. So this one's also in this territory area, but I would say B tier because you have to wait 17 seconds to put him in, to make him leave. But I would also think to put it into A tier because this allows Springtrap to move closer to the player. So I'm going to put him in A tier. Next is Phantom Foxy. And I remember this one making like a weird sound, you know? So, rather than having a visual or audio cue to his appearance like in the rest of the Phantom Animatronics, Phantom Foxy will only appears in the... Let me restart. Rather than having a visual or audio cue to his appearance like the rest of the Phantom Animatronics, Phantom Foxy only appears in the office. Because he lacks a regular movement pattern, Phantom Foxy will randomly appear standing in front of the box of parts that is present in the office. If the player does not raise the monitor before they look at him directly, Phantom Foxy will lunge at the player, disabling the ventilation system. The frequency of his appearance increases as the week progresses. In the mobile version, however, Phantom Foxy has a different behavior. He will randomly jump scare the player when they lower the maintenance panel, making him completely unavoidable. Perhaps the only form of knowing when he is active is his foot, which is barely visible under the maintenance panel. And then there's also FNAF VR, FNAF Help Wanted, FNAF 7, whatever you want to call it. It's got a bunch of names. So this one, I feel like it would be in B tier because of the mobile version. because it's barely avoidable. But I'm also thinking of putting him in the C tier. For some reason, I'm not actually sure. My mind's just went crazy. What do you know? I woke up at about 7 in the morning. So I'm just gonna put him in B tier. Next, I'm not actually sure which one that is. I think that's the FNAF VR, the FNAF VR Help Wanted Phantom Foxy. I'm not sure, but we'll skip that one. But now we're into FNAF 4, which is also going to be other games after that, so don't worry. So I think this is, yeah, Nightmare Freddy. I actually wasn't sure if this was, a golden one or you know, this one, because of the Fredbears, or the Freddles, according to the FNAF Wikipedia. This one is the game is a lot more, you know, interesting. Unlike the other Nightmare Animatronics, Nightmare Freddy only appears in the bedroom if the players fail to ward off the 3 Freddys. Nightmare Freddy's 3 miniature counterparts. Due to the Freddles, which are the official names of the mini Freddys that are on the bed, appearing on the bed, it seems that Nightmare Freddy may already be in the bedroom of the start of the night, perhaps hiding under the bed. Nightmare Freddy has a much different AI mechanic than the other animatronics do in the 4th game. As the night progresses, the player must check behind the bed to see if the Freddles are lurking there. Once the player has shined the flashlight on the bed, the Freddles will generally disappear almost immediately in a paranormal manner. Depending on how long the player stops to check the bed, there may be 1, 2, or even all 3 Freddles sitting on the surface. It takes noticeably longer for all 3 Freddles to disappear than it takes 1 or 2, and the animation is different, as they zip off the side instead of just instantly fading away. However, if the player still fails to check the bed in a consistent manner, Nightmare Freddy will appear in their place and will proceed with his attack. So really, the strategy is just to frequently check behind you. So I would say it's C tier. Sorry, buddy. You're gonna get a pat on the head. You'll get a pat on the head in Custom Night. Next is Nightmare Bonnie. And again, it's probably one of the scariest ones out there. Considering that they have, 3 layers of teeth. Like, look at these! How can you not look at these without getting nightmares? Unless you're like below my age. Or above my age, sorry. If you're like below my age, how are you gonna look at these things without getting nightmares? It's crazy. But anyways, Nightmare Bonnie can visit 2 different visible places in the 4th game. These places being the left hall and the bedroom when attacking. To keep him away, when checking the left door for him, the player should wait 3 to 4 seconds. If his breathing is heard, then the player is advised to hold the door down until his footsteps are heard. Then it is possible to safely step away. Nightmare Bonnie is an incredibly active antagonist in the first few nights. He behaves similar to Nightmare Chica, except that he comes down the left hall. He first starts in the far end of the left hall, or if right next to the door, his jump scare. If the player ignores the Nightmare Bonnie for too long while he's at the door, he will enter the bedroom and attack the player. When the player is at the left door, it is advised to listen for breathing, as no visual cues will be available to tell if Nightmare Bonnie is there. Assuming no audio cues are heard, it is advised to use to flash the hall. as Nightmare Bonnie can be slightly delayed if he is at the end of the hall. As with the other animatronics, Nightmare Bonnie becomes inactive on night 5 and Nightmare with Nightmare Fredbear or Nightmare taking it on his role instead. So this one also has a simple pattern. Listen for breathing. If you don't, then flash your flashlight in the left hall. But because of how he can pretty much just enter the room, or pretty much just jump scare you right when you open the door, I'm actually gonna keep him into C tier, even though those are kind of bad things. But anyways, next we have Nightmare Chica. Again, another scary one. And there's also the cupcake, which I'm not actually sure where that is. But because it's not there, we won't rank it. Well, I don't actually see it, but if you guys do, then I'll check on the live stream afterwards. But I do not see a Nightmare Cupcake. Anyways, Nightmare Chica is an incredibly active antagonist for the first few nights. She behaves similarly to Nightmare Bonnie, except that she approaches the bedroom through the right hall rather than the left hall. She starts in an unviewable area that connects the two halls. Then she can be seen peeking around the corner at the end of the hall, or if right next to the door during your first jump scare. While standing in the right doorway, it is necessary for the player to listen to breathing. And that's just really the same thing. But you have to listen to it for 2 to 3 seconds until she leaves. But actually, when it's 2 to 3 seconds, if the player fails to do so, the cupcake will sneak in while the player isn't looking and jump scare them when the player turns around. Occasionally, metallic clanging and rustling can be heard coming from another room. This usually indicates that Nightmare Chica is not in the right hall, though flashing the light in the hall is still advised as a safety measure. As with the other animatronics, Nightmare Chica is nowhere to be seen on night 5, and is less active on night 6 and night 7, with Nightmare Fredbear or Nightmare/Nightmarionette effectively taking on her role instead. So this one also has the same pattern, but because the cupcake, or the Nightmare Cupcake I should say, I'm going to put it into B tier. Next is Nightmare Foxy. Again, probably one of the scary ones. But this one appears into the closet. Oh, this part actually was made during Halloween. I did not realize that, but anyways. Nightmare Foxy becomes active at night 2 and can be seen in the right hall alongside Nightmare Chica or the left hall alongside Nightmare Bonnie. Oh. He can occasionally be seen peeking around the corner in Nightmare Chica's or Nightmare Bonnie's place. The player can predict this action by hearing fast footsteps, similar to the ones the player hears when the original Foxy runs through the West Hall in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Failing to keep Nightmare Foxy at bay will allow him to sneak into the closet and stay the whole night, thus making the checking of the closet necessary, compounding to the player's liberty task of checking the doors and the bed. Just like in the first game, Nightmare Foxy's behavior comes within 5 phases, which can only be seen when approaching and inspecting the closet with the flashlight that has already been snuck into the closet. With every phase, he comes to an increase in urgency to shut the closet doors on him. And with every night comes an increase of speed in the advancing of phases, yet an increase of difficulty in resetting him back to even a single phase. And these are the phases. Initially, only a Foxy plush will be found sitting in the closet. The player can then quickly proceed to exit the closet without worrying. Phase 2, Nightmare Foxy has replaced the plush and is standing upright, with only his lower torso, right leg, and hooked right hand visible. It is still safe to leave him and check another location. Phase 3 is that Nightmare Foxy is now in a crouching position. His gaping tooth lower jaw exposed for the player to see. Unless Nightmare Freddy's tiny counterparts or Frettles or anything else prove to be a bigger threat, the player should now hold the doors closed to shut on Nightmare Foxy. Phase 4 will have Nightmare Foxy's head now visible over his foot, his glaring orange eyes staring at the player, and his heavily toothed mouth gaping open. The first time the player checks him while he's in this phase in the night, he will snap at the player with an angry growl, or just a quick sound of the normal FNAF 4 jump scare sound. This gives the player the message to immediately close the closet doors, or they will be attacked the next time they move elsewhere. And finally, Phase 5. If the player is facing the bed or walks backwards towards the center of the bedroom from either the closet or the door while Nightmare Foxy is in his crouch position, then Nightmare Foxy will eventually forcefully turn the player around if they are facing the bed, and jump at the player, screaming and shaking violently, ending the game and sending the player back to the title screen. So this one also has kind of a hard pattern, like in this kind of area, but it's not super hard, and it's not this area. But because of Phase 4 and 5, I'm putting him into hard tier. Next is FNAF 1 Bonnie. According to most people, and even the man himself, Scott Cawthon, saying that he is the scariest one that he's ever seen, considering even that he had nightmares of him while he was developing, I think, FNAF 2. So Bonnie is known for coming and returning to the office more frequently than other animatronics. And like Foxy, he only approaches from the left side, though their similarities end there. He will stare through the doorway into the office, unlike Chica, who looks through the window. As opposed to Chica, Bonnie usually shows up at the door more frequently, but leaves more quickly than Chica, thus draining less power. On some nights, if the player does not look at Bonnie at the show stage, he will not move from that location. Although this is one of the best methods for surviving Night 2. Using this method leaves the player unable to check on Pirate Cove, as the show stage's default camera when opening the monitor, leaving the player vulnerable to an attack from Foxy. On the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th nights, while the player is standing in front of a camera outside the office, camera 2B, Bonnie's head and jaw twitch violently in a very paranormal manner, which we saw in the recent FNAF live streams. The robot voice bite sound can be heard while he is twitching, even if the player is not looking directly at him on the monitor. These paranormal behaviors are also exhibited by Chica. While Bonnie enters the office while the player is viewing the cameras, quiet, raspy, groan-like noises are audible. Once the player lowers the camera view and returns to the office, Bonnie will attack them and cause a game over. The same noises can also be heard in the situation if Chica is waiting to attack. Bonnie and Chica are capable of forcing the player to lower the monitor to attack, meaning the night guard cannot necessarily survive by continuing to view the monitor unless 6 a.m. as previously thought. Unlike Chica, who can travel to adjacent rooms throughout the building, Bonnie appears to possess supposed teleportation abilities. which is noticeable in cheat mode, which is in the Android version only, enabled. This is seemingly responsible for him appearing at the office door far more often than Chica does. Additionally, Bondia is also capable of temporarily disabling the cameras as he moves to another area, as is Chica. So I would also put this one in like this area. And by how he actually teleports, I would actually say that he would be in D tier. Because if he's like at the door, then a few seconds later he just goes to, like, I don't know, the dining area. Then you can open the door and then save power, which will make it a lot easier to get through the night. All right, next is Nightmare Golden Freddy. Another. It's another one. Oops, wrong one. I chose the wrong one. Give me a sec. This one. It's actually Nightmare Fredbear. Yeah, that rhymed. But, Nightmare Fredbear will appear on night 5 for the full night and night 6 from 4 a.m. onward. When active, no other animatronics will attack, which to a degree can simplify things. Nightmare Fredbear will approach from either the left hall or right hall. When looking at him in the halls. No looking at Nightmare Fredbear in the halls. Flickering the flashlight off and on will cause him to approach while closing the door will make him retreat back around the corner. At random points throughout the game, the player will hear Nightmare Fredbear laughing loudly, which means that his head will either appear on the bed, at which point the player simply has to close the door for a brief amount of time, or in the closet, at which point the player simply has to close the door for a brief amount of time. Or no, when he's on the bed, you have to simply shine the flashlight on him for a brief amount of time. Really? This appears? Oh my god. Why? Jesus. Please stop these notifications. Anyways, while warding him off these situations, Nightmare Fredbear will make a loud screech sound, but be aware, if the player hears laughing and hears footsteps, then Nightmare Fredbear is not in the closet or on the bed. If the player flashes the light on him and runs to the center of the bedroom or closes the door afterwards, the player will die. There's no known way of escaping this, which is why the player must shine the flashlight on him and quickly close the door until his footsteps signify that he has left the location. To defend against Nightmare Fredbear's attack, the player must pay close attention to the sounds he makes as he runs to tell which direction he's going. Therefore, it is crucial to use stereo speakers or headphones with the sound turned up to an acceptable level, so that you don't have to hear a ear rape jump scare. I don't mean the inappropriate definition. Likewise, the player can also hear Nightmare Fredbear has left the door in a similar manner and can return to the middle of the bedroom. So, I feel like this one would kind of be in hard or super hard tier, because you need to put on stereo speakers or have headphones on, which can have the risk of possibly, damaging your ears if you put it up too high. Because then the breathing will be kind of loud, but then the jump scare will go, I didn't mean to put him into B tier. So I'm not really sure where to put him. Oh jeez. Sorry. So, I think I'll put him into B tier. I don't know. Next is Nightmare. So this one's like a black silhouette of Nightmare Freddy, I think. Alright. Nightmare will appear on both Nightmare will appear on both Nightmare Night 7 and 2020 mode from 4 a.m. on, or any night when all Nightmare is turned on, effectively replacing Nightmare Fredbear. When active, no other animatronics will attack by default. Nightmare Foxy can still be triggered by shining the flashlight on the bed or squeaking the Freddy plush nose for an excessively long time, which to a degree can simplify things. Nightmare essentially has the same mechanics to Nightmare Fredbear, appearing in the closet, on the bed, and by the hallway doors. However, when compared to Nightmare Fredbear, Nightmare is much more aggressive. Nightmare will approach from either the left hall or right hall. Unlike Nightmare Fredbear, however, when looking at him in the halls, he will always appear right at the door, in the player's face. At random points throughout the night, the player will hear Nightmare laugh loudly, which means that his head will appear either on the bed, which what did I say head? Anyways, at which point the player must simply shine the flashlight on him for a brief amount of period, or in the closet, at which point the player simply has to close the door for a brief amount of time. Failing to do so will result in Nightmare jump scaring the player with a kill screen. After the kill screen shows up for about 5 seconds, the game will reboot, which also means that the game just Alt-F4'd itself. To defend against Nightmare's attacks, the player must pay close attention to the sounds he makes as he runs to tell which direction he's going. Therefore, it is crucial to use stereo speakers or headphones with the volume turned up to an acceptable level. Likewise, the player can also hear Nightmare has left the door in a certain manner to turn the world of adventure. So this one's also kind of in this area, but because he replaces this guy right here, and hold on, because he's more aggressive, I'm gonna put him into A tier. Next is Plush Trap. That one is in the mini game, and I'm not sure what it's called. But anyways, oh my god, so many pictures. It's creepy. Alright, let me find it. Plush Trap has a different AI mechanic than any others in the game, as he is only seen in the minigame Fun with Plush Trap. Okay, that's the name. It gets more aggressive and unpredictable each time the minigame is played. In the minigame, Plush Trap starts in a chair at the end of a dark corridor and moves towards the player, usually entering 4 rooms near him. The only way to stop him is to shine the flashlight, which will make him rapidly go back to his starting location or hide in a close room. If he is in the middle of the hallway or on the X, he will stop and sit. Like in the main game, the player must rely on audio cues to tell how close he is to the player. Light footsteps can be heard, meaning that he has started moving. When he is heard running, he has moved to a room. To win the minigame, the player must shine the flashlight when Plush Trap is stopped on the X. Plush Trap will then permanently cease moving, and the player will be granted a 2-hour bonus for the next night, 1 hour added with cheats and challenges enabled. If the player fails the minigame and Plush Trap is hiding in a room or still sits in his chair when the timer goes out, the player will receive a death screen with the words, "Too bad!" If the player fails the minigame and Plush Trap gets too close before the timer runs out, they will be jump scared by him and lose the chance to win the 2-hour bonus, also giving the player a "too bad" result screen. Plush Trap also makes an appearance in the Night 3 End of Night minigame. In this game, a kid can be seen holding a doll resembling Plush Trap, which their dad refers to a finger trap. Upon approaching the kid, they'll say, "Where's your plush toy?" "Mine is Spring Bonnie." "My daddy says I have to be careful with him or I will pinch my finger. He is a finger trap," he says. So this one also has a pretty simple pattern. So C tier, but not D tier, because you still have the chance of being jump scared and losing the 2-hour bonus. Next is Jacko Bonnie from the Halloween update that actually became not canon, but Nightmare Balloon Boy did inside of it. But anyways, I'll have to start if I yawn. I didn't get enough sleep. But anyways, Jacko Bonnie's behavior is nearly identical to his regular variant. However, there are some differences. From the left hall, he doesn't seem to duck down a little while retreating, unlike his original variant. Very much like an actual Jacko lantern, shining bright colors with his body and head causes him to glow in the dark. Jacko Chica shares the same effect, which we'll get to in the next one. When Jacko Bonnie is jump scaring the player from the left hall, especially from the first frame of his jump scare, the flashlight beam is much dimmer than from the standard version. Similar to Jacko Chica, his jump scare animation from the left hall and bedroom is slightly faster. From the bedroom, he is straight while performing his jump scare, making it a completely different style of his jump scare. So this one also has pretty much the same pattern as Nightmare Bonnie, so I'm just going to put him here. And now we have Jacko Chica, which there are actually some thumbnails inside of these entries, which you can actually click on to go to different pages of the Wikipedia. But anyway, Jacko Chica's behavior is almost exactly like her original variant. Interestingly, bright shining colors from within her body and head causes her to glow in the dark, which can be seen while she is retreating from the right hall. The same effect goes to Jacko Bonnie, which we just talked about. While not counting her animation as she retreats from the right hall, the only difference from her jump scare animation is the speed being slightly faster than her original variant, similar to Jacko Bonnie's own jump scare animation speed. Her Jack-o'-lantern also shares the same speed limit as Nightmare Chica's cupcake while jump scaring the player from the bedroom, as it seems to bounce on the floor a few times before the game over screen displays. So again, this one has pretty much the same thing as Nightmare Chica. But I feel like putting both of the Jackos next to each other, because you can literally see them glowing if they retreat to the corner of the hall. So then you'll be able to know where they are, unless they're right at the door, which then you'll die. Next is Nightmare Mangle, which I actually had no idea even existed in the game until now. Which I think just appears in the same spot as Nightmare Foxy. Alright. Nightmare Mangle behaves almost exactly like its counterpart, Nightmare Foxy. It is introduced in Night 2. It will try to enter the bedroom from either hall, despite not appearing in the hall. If it succeeds while doing so, it will enter the closet like lots of and then I think they pretty much do the same thing. So it's just really just a reskin. So I'm just going to put them in the same tier. Alright, next is the Night Marionette, which, from what I remember, this guy, it kind of makes the same sound as Nightmare for their jump scare. Oh my god. these faces. My god. Alright. That marionette behaves that marionette behaves exactly like Nightmare, meaning that he can attack from the bed, closet, left hall, and right hall. As a replacement of Nightmare, Marionette only appears in Nightmare and 2020 mode from 4 a.m. onward. He can appear any night with the All Nightmare challenge turned on. While Nightmare Marionette is active, the music of the music box from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 will play. Nightmare Marionette will also occasionally laugh, similar to Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare. Using the same strategy for Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear, the player must pay close attention to the stepping sounds that Nightmare Marionette makes in order to tell which direction he is going when defending themselves. Similar to Golden Freddy from the first game, while jump scaring the player, Nightmare Marionette's close-up screen will appear in light bluish colors and a lack of teeth. In addition to his jump scare, he shares the same strange radio-like noise as Nightmare. It will also return the player to the main menu upon being jump scared. Oh my goodness. But now I remember the little sound that... So this one pretty much has the same strategy as Nightmare, so I'll put them in the same tier again. Alright, next is Nightmare Balloon Boy, which actually became canon in one of the updates. Which I'm not really sure if that's a good thing. And I think this one also appears in the Fun with Plush Trap minigame. Oh my goodness. Alright. Okay, there we go. Nightmare Balloon Boy functions exactly as Plush Trap in the Fun with Plush Trap minigame, except for the fact that he laughs or says, "Hi," or "Hello," in a deep demonic voice. So like, "Hi," "Hello," or something like that. As well as the fact that if he moves in a slightly faster speed than Plush Trap, given the shorter time, making it more of a challenge. His jump scare is similar in fashion. To win the minigame, the player must shine the flashlight on Nightmare Balloon Boy and that mumbling was just the same thing that happens with Plush Trap. So they're pretty much the same, but I think I'll put them in B tier because of the less time, which makes him the less amount of time, which makes him faster, which can give you more time to make him kill you. Alright, next is the Old Man minigame, I think. I don't know. Oh, Old Man Consequences, okay. But I've never really played FNAF World Ultimate Custom Night, which really I've never really seen this character ever. Alright, well, we're gonna go over the FNAF World one. And, you know, sorry if you want to hear the Ultimate Custom Night one, but to keep the live stream short and not waste all of my memory on my computer, and possibly even damage my entire CPU, then I'll have to keep this kind of short. We'll have to rank all these, and that's going to be a real pain in the butt. Sorry. But Old Man Consequences appeared in the first RPG spin-off game, FNAF World. Secretly found as a non-playable character in the 4th glitch ending. When the player enters the 4th level, they will have to talk to Old Man Consequences or take the drowning ending. Instead, when they talk to him, he will say, "Sorry to say that you've gone too deep in the code. There is no way back out. My name is Old Man Consequences. Come have a seat and let's fish for a while. You have nowhere else to go." After this text box, the game will simply say "The End" in all lowercase. Alright, that was kind of short, but pretty much kind of. This one doesn't really do anything, so I'm just gonna put him in D tier. And plus, this is the RPG spin-off, not the click and point survival horror game that we all know, or genre that we all know. So D tier. Next is, I think that's one of the endos. Sorry, I'm not really up with the newer games. But, I think that's endo number 6. Endo... Let me find it, actually. I'm not sure which one that is. Alright, let me find them. FNAF 3, FNAF 4, FNAF Sister Location. Wasn't FNAF Sister Location had like, what was it, this guy? This guy's mask was like missing on the fifth night. I don't remember. Alright, well, I don't really think I can really find this one. I think it might be in Pizzeria Simulator, but I think if I don't know it, then I'm going to put it into D tier. Sorry if you don't really want, sorry if you already know what it does and it's like in like hard or super hard territory. But because I can't really find it on the Wikipedia, I'm just going to put it into D tier. Next is Chica from FNAF 1. And we've seen this pattern a lot. So really what you need to do is you need to put them, I'll put it into this area. But because of how dumb, you know, you should know from the live streams that we did. And if you don't, then check them after this live stream. But next is, I think this is the UFO from Pizzeria Simulator. Let me check. FNAF. Yes. I'm actually not sure what that even is. Salvaging? Let me check. Is that the name of it? Sorry, I'm not really with the modern games. And the page is just a white screen. Great. This is just great. Perfect day for me. Oh my goodness. Oh. Oh, this is just the mini game for it. So that's not what we're looking for. Let me look for game. Why is the page doing this? My goodness. This is the website's not working. Oh my god. Well, apparently I can't find this one, so I'll put it into D tier as well. And I don't really know if this character or object can really attack you in the game, considering I've never played Pizzeria Simulator or watched any Let's Play of it. But either way. I actually thought this was like Phantom Mangle or something, but no. It's not. Oh wait, is it? I think it is. Was there a Phantom Mangle? I think there was. Where the... I don't remember if... Was this Phantom Foxy or Phantom Mangle? I don't remember now. Oh, come on. Did I just ruin it? Oh my god. Well, let's just keep going. Now we have Circus Baby from Sister Location. And this one, I think you had to repair in one of the nights. I think like the fourth one. And would you look at that? My GPU went all the way to 100. This has just gone perfect for me. Alright. Please work. Okay. Worked. Appearance. Oh, this one is pretty, this one doesn't really have a behavior. I guess I'll just read the appearance. Oh, wait, no. Oh, wait. It's telling me the different nights, okay. During night 1, the player is instructed by hand unit to shock Baby, although she never actually appears behind the window. Despite this, hand unit congratulates Baby for getting back on her stage. On night 2, Baby's voice is heard for the first time. She starts to speak once hand unit turns off the power, struggling to recognize the player and wondering why they were there. During the night, she instructs the player to hide under the desk to avoid the Bide Babes, and advises them on how to get past Ballora while crawling through Ballora Gallery. During night 3, if the player chooses to go to circus control, then under the desk, as instructed not to by a hand unit, and hides under the desk, Circus Baby will tell the player on her time on stage and the incident involved during unintentionally killing William Afton's daughter due to programming. On night 4, she kidnaps the player and hides him in the spring lock suit, similar to Spring Bonnie, to keep them safe from the other animatronics and possibly hide you from the techniques coming that night. She also introduces the scooping room in this night and gives the player a lesson on pretending. She then opens the face plates so the technicians will then later rescue the player and send them back home, ending the night. On night 5, Circus Baby appears in Parts and Service, where she is to be taken to the scooping room. Baby instructs the player to remove a chip from her body so that she may continue to speak to the player. She then guides the player through the Funtime Auditorium, helping them to stay away from Ballora to be revealed of maskless Enard from the jump scare, and into the scooping room. She then reveals that all the animatronic endoskeletons have been combined with hers to form a hybrid animatronic, Enard, that they will use the player's body as a disguise to escape. She then activates the scooper, which disembowels the player. Alright, well, this one doesn't really have a pattern or anything, really just anything that can be a nuisance. Well, besides getting killed by Enard and having her body being used. So, D tier. Next is Ballora. And here we go. Alright. Where is... Okay, Roland's sister location. Ballora is located in the Ballora Gallery along with her mini arenas. She is hired for birthday parties and to encourage kids to get fit and enjoy pizza. If you didn't catch it, I was trying to do the hand unit's voice. She is first seen on her stage in Night 1, where the player must give her a controlled shock to get her back on her stage. During Night 2, the player will first have to give her a controlled shock. When they turn on the lights, Laura will be standing in the shadows close to the window. The player then must crawl through the Laura gallery to reboot the system manually. She will then dance around the room, playing her music, trying to find the player. In the mobile version, her music became short and only repeated after the same first few notes of her song in Laura gallery. In Night 3, when the player looks at Laura's stage, her various body parts will be held up by the mini arenas. In Night 4, when the player looks down from the mask, she is seen getting scooped while the player is stuck in the spring-lock suit. During Night 5, the player will be held to the scooping room by Anard as Circus Baby, where they can see the mangled animatronic shells, including Laura's, lying on the floor in front of the scooper. So this one also doesn't really have too much of a pattern, but because of how quiet you have to be on Night 2 to reboot the system manually from the breaker room, I think that's where it has to be. We'll put it into C tier because there's the risk of going too fast and then, you know. Next is Funtime Foxy. Oh. Alright, this one actually has the thing, the jump scare. Funtime Foxy will always be seen in Funtime Auditorium whenever the character checks in the primary control module. In Night 1, it will have to be shocked twice before turning to its stage. In Night 3, the player must enter and exit through the Funtime Auditorium. If the player flashes the beacon at Funtime Foxy too much or too little, it will jump scare the player, resulting in a game over. At the end of the night, Funtime Foxy will At the end of Night 3, Funtime Foxy will jump scare the player regardless of the player's routine, and instantly start Night 4. The only other time Funtime Foxy will be seen is the real ending of Night 5. Like all the other animatronics, it is scooped and used to create an art. So, this one also has a simple pattern, so C tier. I'm surprised there aren't many S tiers. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, huh? So now we have Funtime. Oops. We have Funtime Freddy. And I remember this one had like this warning thing inside the breaker room, which is where Funtime Freddy was. Alright. Funtime Freddy first appears in the breaker room on Night 2. The objective of the night is to turn on the building's power while avoiding Funtime Freddy as he sneaks up on the player. This is done by opening a monitor panel to reboot each system individually and slowly. There's a danger level on the top right corner of the screen indicating how fast Funtime Freddy is advancing towards the player. When it's a simple green bar, Funtime Freddy will retreat until he reaches his starting position. The player must counter this by closing the monitor panel if necessary and playing a mascot voice that tells him that the player is not there. If Funtime Freddy reaches the player and they have the monitor panel raised, he will jump scare them, resulting in a game over. On Night 3, in parts and service, Funtime Freddy is in need of repair. The player has to first open the faceplates, then the chest plates to reboot Funtime Freddy's power and remove his power module. Then the player needs to click on Bon Bon's button, which is located under his bow tie, to reboot him as well. If the player fails to do so, they will be jump scared by Bon Bon, also resulting in a game over. So I actually assume that both of them are like, like pretty much connected to each other. Because I'm looking at the jump scare thing because there are GIFs on the websites for it, and if you look at the first few frames, you can actually see Bon Bon's body before he turns around, before he moves forward, and then only his arm is shown. So I think that Bon Bon is actually connected to Funtime of Freddy. So we'll put them both into the same tier, I guess. So we'll put them into D tier because, it's a really simple pattern, actually. Alright, next is Anard, which I've never really seen before until today, again. Alright. There's a lot of things here. Alright, so bear with me, this is going to be a bit long. Parts and service. Anard will make his first lethal appearance on night 5, under the disgust of being Bellora's scooped endoskeleton. If the player is not fast enough typing in the keypad or types the wrong number, Anard will jump scare the player replaying the section. Fun time auditorium. When Baby's costume is taken by the conveyor belt, Anard will follow the player to Funtime Auditorium, where he will jump scare the player if they do not follow Baby's instructions. Attempt to enter the private room if they don't have the key card. In this case, the computer voice will call out "Access denied," followed by Anard's jump scare or flash the beam. In the real scooping room, in the real ending, when the player reaches the scooping room, Anard will reveal himself behind the glass windows in the room. Circus Baby, talking through Anard, will then tell the player about his plan to use their body to assimilate into human society before activating the scooper and killing the player. In the PC version, the cutscene plays after playing the silhouette of Anard, with the player's body in front of a bathroom mirror. He then opens his eyes to show his purple irises, thus revealing the plan succeeded. Private room. In the fake ending, the player gains access to the private room. They must protect themselves from Anard for 6 in-game hours, and in a style similar to the original Five Nights at Freddy's 1 game. If the player fails to shut the doors and vents in order to defend themselves, or when the power indicator runs out completely, Anard would immediately jump scare the player, resulting in a game over. If the player completes this night, they'll unlock the season finale to The Immortal and the Restless. Shortly after the episode, Anard can be seen dragging itself into the living room with the right side and his left eye flickering. And then the custom night. Alright, so this one also is kind of hard, which I wouldn't put it into S tier because it needs more, but because of how like creepy this guy is, like all you can see from the private room, the only thing that looks like it would actually be inside of the thing would be the face. Everything else is just complete wires. So I wouldn't put it into S tier, so I would put it into A tier. Sorry if I got a bit close to the microphone. Alright, next is Baby. Now, from what I remember, this one's from FNAF Sister Location again. Alright, here we go. Ah, come on. Great. We don't have anything. So apparently we don't have any information for the baby. But from what I remember, in the second night, you had to protect yourself from baby by going under the desk and then closing it because someone made hiding spot out of it. But not to make eye contact with this one. So it might be a bit hard to actually keep the door closed. So I'm gonna put it into B tier. Alright, next is the mini nets. Or the mini arenas, sorry. Alright. Oh. Alright. The mini arenas with Ballora for the first 3 nights, appear with Ballora for the first 3 nights, although they aren't lethal until night 4. During night 4 in the scooping room, the player has been hidden inside an old spring lock suit and must wind the locks while fending off multiple mini arenas. They must climb up the sides of the suits, forcing the player to wiggle to avoid being jump scared. Which in turn slightly loosens the locks. Some may climb into the suit but do not harm the player. So this one also has a simple pattern, so I'll put them into C tier. Next is Lolbit. I think that's what it is. Lolbit. Let me look it up. Lolbit. Okay, so it is. I don't think this one actually jump scares you. Alright. Sometimes while in the primary control module, an Ard's head has a rare chance to be replaced by Lobbit's head. This event is largely believed to occur after getting killed by Funtime Foxy. This may happen on all nights except night 4. Ooh. Custom night. This section refers to contents from games, DLC, and other media that is either not canon or set in an alternate universe, considered not relevant to the core game series' overall plotline. Lobbit will appear on the 3 monitors in the office, followed by visual and audio distractions. Type LOL on the keyboard, or type LOL on your keyboard to deactivate Lobbit. Lolbit. Is that how it's pronounced? Lolbit? Description from the custom night. Occasionally, the monitors of the right side of the office will glitch one by one and show Lobbit's head. During this time, near the nearby keypad used for the 1983 Easter egg will show up with a lit up LOL that can be clicked to deter Lolbit. Alternatively, the player can type LOL on their keyboard for the same result. If all 3 monitors show Lolbit's face at the same time, a large pop-up will block the player's vision. This pop-up image shows Lolbit's face with the message, "Please stand by!" Then the player will be unable to use the cameras or doors for about 7 seconds until they deter Lolbit. Night modes where Lolbit is active as list follows: Funtime Frenzy, Weirdos, Bottom Shelf, Cupcake Challenge, and Golden Freddy. So again, this one doesn't really jump scare you. It's more of just a distraction, kind of like Balloon Boy. So I'll put them into D tier. Next is Foxy from FNAF 1, and this one can be a real nuisance if you don't watch the cameras a lot. And oh geez, I can see the fan art for Foxy and Mangle already. And that's not good. What do you know? Foxy is a unique character in the game because, unlike the other animatronics, including Freddy Fazbear, his moveset is entirely set. His movement pattern is entirely set. He starts at Pirate Cove inside of the closed curtain, next peeking out of the camera, then starts to walk for the West Hall. However, once he becomes aggressive from either not being viewed enough or being monitored for too much, starting from night 3, he leaves Pirate Cove and rushes down the West Hall towards the office. He does not appear anywhere else. Foxy hides behind his curtain in Pirate Cove throughout the game. Over the course of the night, the player must use the monitor periodically. He also must monitor Pirate Cove in a balance between too much and too little to avoid Foxy from emerging from his curtain and sprinting toward the office. This balance may be difficult to find, but is essential for preventing Foxy from ending the night early. Foxy's attack appears to be set on a timer, to be based on a timer, rather than being random. If Foxy's AI is set to 20 on night 7 and Pirate Cove is never checked, he will always bang on the door at either 32 or 38 seconds intervals. This is on version 1.1. This is because sometimes when he retreats, he will immediately return to phase 2 instead of going back behind the curtains. He is also much more active in the mobile version to compensate for shorter nights. He will sometimes run back when his AI levels are quite high. Phases. Initially, Foxy is completely hidden behind the curtain. Foxy Phase 2. The curtain is part slightly, allowing the player to view Foxy's face, upper half, and part of his bare legs. Phase 3. Foxy is left behind the curtain and is now in front of the camera, shrouded in darkness with the only indication of his presence being his glowing eyes and outline. His head is also tilted sharply to the left. 1. Phase 4 will have Foxy proceed his attack by leaving the curtains wide open. Sometimes a sign reading "Sorry, out of order" will change to display the phrase "It's me," a message commonly associated with hallucinations. Foxy is nowhere to be seen in Pirate Cove. At this point, if the monitor is lowered immediately and the left door is closed, the player can then view to Cam 2A to safely trigger Foxy's sprinting animation. Phase 5. Foxy has now left Pirate Cove and will begin to rush to the night guard's location. When viewing the West Hall on camera 2A, the player will briefly see Foxy sprinting toward the security room. At this point, the player must either have already closed the door or must close it immediately, though they are very unlikely to succeed after having his spotted his sprint. If the player attempts to block off the left doorway as succeeded, Foxy will bang on the door a few times, then his position will be reset back to the drapes in Pirate Cove. He can, however, reset straight to Phase 2 on more difficult nights or settings. When Foxy bangs on the door, the player will lose a small portion of their power, the first time draining 1% of power, the second time draining 6%, the third being 11 power percent. If the player attempts to close the door has failed, Foxy will lean over into the office and screech. The screen will then go to static and will result in the game over. So this one also kind of works like it's kind of like how the same characters are kind of the same in their game in the sequels and prequels. So I'm gonna put them into S tier because when he comes back, he can also immediately go back to Phase 2 in his attempt to get into the office. And if you don't close it immediately or already have it closed, then you're pretty much dead if he's running down the West Hall from 2A. Anyways, I think that's the second baby. Was it? I think I'll just put it the same. I'm actually not sure at all. Alright, what's this? Is this the endoskeleton for for Funtime Freddy? I think it is. I'll just put it. I'll put it here. Right, next is the pink bonbon. I'm sorry, I'm not really up with the recent games. Or you know, the ones that came out after 2014. What do you know? Task manager check. And it's horrible. I feel like I actually might have to end the stream. But don't worry, when we get back, we'll do this. We'll try it again. But honestly, I feel like I need to take a break now. And my stomach doesn't feel right. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't worry, we'll continue on this when we get back in like a few hours. But hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna read. Oh, there's nothing in the chat. Alright. And no one was on this for like the entire thing. But we'll see you guys next time. Peace.